Now, people have different ways by which they unwind. Some exercise and some have a drink, and in my case, that's juice, while others smoke. Well, if your choice of unwinding is smoking and you're in Lagos State, you might want to be a bit careful where you do that. MPs in Lagos State have passed a bill banning smoking in public places, including restaurants and public transport. Now, those who don't take this seriously could pay a fine of 10,000 naira, or they could be thrown behind bars, or worst case scenario, they could get both. The bill also makes it an offense to smoke in front of a child, of which in that case, if caught, the offender could pay a fine of 15,000 naira or be sentenced to a 1-month jail term, or again, could even get both.
In the real sense, let's knock this thing direct to the tobacco companies. And then let's talk about the monoxide, you understand, which also goes with smoking. Because when you see vehicles, also they do what they pollute. And you, probably an asthma patient, you inhale this thing, it becomes a monoxide and it gives you a problem in your heart. Probably if I'm smoking now and you want me to stop smoking, I might not be able to stop. But when I decide out of personal conviction, fine, and I don't decide no more smoking, and that goes, and up to date. Almost 15 years, 12 years, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, I've not been smoking up to date. And that's why I believe that's what keeps me alive.
Well, I like the way they put it. If the other people in other ghettos we understand, so that we allow Nigerian people to live evidence of good living, not to be smoking around the streets or the road. If there are still people that are smoking the road, it's very bad. But when we go outside country, we always see people smoking in public because they are feeling cool. But for me, I don't support anybody to be smoking in public, because if you are smoking in public, they will be looking at you as somehow. But one thing I would like to give advice for people, they should just forget about smoking around, so that Nigeria will live long life.
Well, the ban of smoking is not necessarily new in its entirety, as the Center of Excellence has already banned drivers from smoking to promote road safety. However, as regards this new dimension, smokers will have time to do some adjustment, as the smoking ban will only come into force once the state governor, Babatunde Fashola, signs the bill into law. Now, this bill was probably passed because even though smoking in public places is already prohibited by the federal government, it's seldom implemented. Now let's take a look at what's happening in the rest of Africa. Well, the Parliament of Morocco has unanimously amended an article of the Penal Code that allowed rapists of underage girls to avoid prosecution by marrying their victims. The move follows intensive lobbying by activists for better protection of young rape victims. The amendment has been expectedly given the nod of approval by rights groups. Article 475 of the Penal Code generated unprecedented public criticism. It was first proposed by Morocco's Islamist-led government a year ago. But the issue came to public prominence back in 2012 when 16-year-old Amina Filali killed herself after being forced to marry her rapist. She accused Mustafa Felak, who was at the time 25, of physical abuse after they got married, and that's an accusation which he denies. And after 7 months of marriage, Ms. Filali swallowed rat poison, ending her life. The case shocked many people in Morocco, received extensive media coverage, and sparked protests in the capital Rabat and other cities. Speaking of abuse of women, let's take a look at what happened to 4 Ugandan women in India. Delhi Transport Minister Saurabh Bhadraj on Wednesday, January the 22nd, defended State's Law Minister Somnath Bharti, who has been involved in a controversy over a midnight raid that he led, where 4 Ugandan women were allegedly mistreated. Now, after receiving complaints from residents of his constituency in Delhi, Nagar Bharti and his supporters had called the police in South Delhi to bust a prostitution and drug racket. However, the 4 women from Uganda in a complaint to Delhi police have alleged that they were molested by a group of supporters of Bharti. Well, we take another break now, and when we return, we shift our focus to South Africa and say farewell to Komla Dumor.
Understanding economic issues is of importance to everyone. Business Incorporated brings you a platform that connects with issues and personalities.
Stop buying these things from these people who are doing them, because they are doing it illegally.
It also explains the news behind the facts and figures in the business world.
Productivity will increase, GDP will increase, but the naira comes under pressure.
Join me as we bring you stories you can connect with anytime, anywhere, and also insight from all sectors of the economy as they affect you.
Well, business is far from usual in South Africa as workers stopped at some of the world's biggest platinum mines as thousands of workers have gone on strike. What are their demands, you might wonder? Well, they want more pay. This is the very first strike they've called for since the 2012 Marikana massacre, which led to the death of 34 people. Now, on that occasion, 34 protesting miners who were supposedly taking part in an illegal wage protest were gunned down by police. A separate strike in the gold sector, which was also scheduled for Thursday, was postponed based on a court ruling. But one major difference between this strike action and the Marikana strike is that the walkout by the platinum workers is legal. And that's in every sense of the word.
The losers are the employees who go on strike because they strike for work without pay. The losers are the mining companies who lose out on production while workers are on strike. And the winners are union bosses who enhance their reputation and who don't take any pay sacrifices while workers are on strike.
All three companies, Anglo-American, Impala and Non-Min Platinum, participated. Still talking about South Africa, Venezuelans decided to honor Nelson Mandela by unveiling a bronze statue in their country in honor of the anti-apartheid hero who died in December last year at the age of 95.
Nelson Mandela!
This significant event brought many Venezuelans together, including the Venezuelan Vice President Jorge Ariaza, as well as a delegation from the South African Embassy. The event triggered memories of the hero in the mind of the Venezuelan Vice President, and he remembered Nelson Mandela as being peaceful and noble, as well as a dear friend to the late Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez.
Mandela is more than a man who attained respect for the black population and united his people. For the people in revolution, Nelson Mandela is a revolutionary, a socialist, an anti-imperialist.
The 90-centimeter bronze bust was made by Venezuelan artist Noel Duran. Nelson Mandela died in December at 95 years old after ailing for several years. A Nobel laureate, he was held in apartheid prisons for 27 years before emerging to preach forgiveness and reconciliation. He served just one term as the leader of South Africa and formally withdrew from public life in 2004. Lovely statue there. However, there is one statue of Nelson Mandela which has stirred up controversy, and it's actually in South Africa. Now, the problem with this statue is the rabbit, which has been spotted in the ear of the late South African president. South Africa's government has ordered sculptors to remove the bronze rabbit, which was hidden in the ear of the statue. Can you believe that? Anyway, the bronze rabbit was hidden in the ear of the Nelson Mandela statue, and the sculptors reportedly inserted the rabbit as a trademark signature and to denote the haste with which they had to complete the statue. Now, they chose a rabbit based on what it means in the Afrikaans language. In Afrikaans, rabbit means haas, which also means haste. The sculptors Andre Prinsloo and Ruhan Janse Vunvuren also explained that they inserted the rabbit in the ear for trademark reasons. And according to them, they put it there after their department prohibited them from engraving their signatures on the trousers of the statue. So the rabbit move was apparently their only way out. Now, Mogomotsi Mogadiri, the spokesman for the Department of the Arts and Culture, however, said there was no truth to their reason, in that the sculptors had never asked for permission to put their signatures on the statue, and that the government was shocked by the claim that their permission had been denied.
It doesn't look nice at all, because here we are talking about a legend and an honorable person throughout the world. So they shouldn't put such things, especially in the ear, even though to some it's not visible or they don't see it. They must use binoculars, but it's not nice at all. It doesn't look nice because it's in the ear and we can see it.
It's a good thing because it looks like it's a signature for the artist. It's not necessarily a living relic, so you cannot necessarily say it is a bad thing.
Well, no matter what the reason might have been, the sculptors have gone ahead to apologize for any offense caused to the government and the Nelson Mandela family by that gesture. Truly controversial, you would say. Well, before we wrap up the show, we'd like to take a moment to pay respects to Komla Dumor, the BBC presenter who died on Saturday, January the 18th. Now, we choose to honor him on Network Africa this week because he was one who had a heart and passion for Africa.
Okay, I've only been here for just a few hours and it is quite clear that something very special is happening.
Do you see a man who is diligent in his work? He will stand before kings, not mere men.
Hello and welcome.
Komla Dumor, one of Africa's finest, was a man who fit this description. He was born on the 3rd of October 1972 and passed away on January the 18th, 2014 after a cardiac arrest in his London home. He was a Ghanaian journalist who was born in Accra and was true to his African roots. He was one who truly loved and took pride in Africa.
The question I put to you is, what story should you tell? Yes, there's a lot of good news about Africa, but there has to be balance. And all of you recognize when you're being patronized, when you're being told things are perfect when they are not. Everybody wants balance.
He was not impressed with the way in which Africa was portrayed, particularly by the Western media, and chose to tell the African story in a different way. Hence, he became the main presenter of BBC's World News program, Focus on Africa, which first aired in 2012. If anyone doubted passion for Africa, all they had to do was trace his roots, and they would find that his passion was probably passed down from the likes of his grandfather, Philip Beho, who composed the Ghanaian national anthem.
However, my mother tells me, she's gone now, but mommy tells me that there was a day they were in a shop called Leventis. I don't think that still works anymore. Yeah. And Grandpa was singing another song, and she asked him, Daddy, what's this song for? And he said, oh, I'm writing a song for Nigeria when they become independent. The point he was making is that these borders and these nationalities and these things that we hold so closely are slowly beginning to become less and less important.
He interviewed leaders. He was also inspired by them. One leader who particularly fueled his passion was the chairman and chief executive officer of Channels Television, Mr. John Momo. He used his position as a broadcaster to identify the challenges in Africa and show what steps are being taken to address them. He explained this in an exclusive interview with the Sunrise Daily team back in 2010.
You leave. You talk about the traffic situation.
Yes.
Away from that, what other constraints do you think an outsider should face when it comes
Honestly, I think you're in a better position to talk about those specifics, but like many other African countries, there's the problem of bureaucracy.
So as it is now, it's just the traffic situation?
Well, no, of course, not just the traffic situation. No. I think I better make a quick confession here. I am a Ghanaian, but I did go to school in Nigeria, so I'm a great Josite. So I do have a bit of a background when it comes to speaking of these, about some of these things. And until some of these challenges are dealt with, obviously there are going to be difficulties. But I think that's part of the reason why, I'm here, and that's part of the reason why we tell these stories. Not just because we want to present, a whitewash of business in Africa, but to show what the challenges are and what people are doing about it to overcome those challenges.
He brought style and a feel that made one truly proud to be African, and even though he took his job seriously, he had fun with it.
Guess we all know who won. Well done. Good one.
As expected, tributes came pouring in. Nelson Mandela's daughter, Makaziwe, who was interviewed by Komla shortly after her father's death, said,
Komla was Africa in every essence.
A bright light has gone out, and he will surely be missed.
Unite for it's later than they say. Africa, await its creators. Africa.
Now, on that note, we say goodbye and farewell to Komla Dumor in the Ashanti language. That's Homo Peace Komla Dumor. And in English, that means rest in peace, Komla Dumor. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's do this again same time next week. I'm Cynthia Are. Stay blessed, and bye for now.
A time comes in the life of every race when people are driven by echoes of the past to chart a course for an exalted future. Africa is a blessed threshold, as major actors in the Africa arena plots a renaissance towards common destiny. Let's pedal across the streams of yesterday, through the backstreets of Africa, to the defining roles of policymakers, the political realities of the African nation, balance of power, and will strive to sustain national interest and identity. Join us on Network